The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome to Scarefest Radio's Body and Spirit, brought to you twice a month by Mama Ruby's family of holistic and metaphysical events. Go to mamarubies.com to learn more. Of course, everybody, this is Body and Spirit, and this is where I get to play in the paranormal world. Scarefest, you know, it's horror, and I don't always. We can't devote all of our time on Scarefest to my passion, which is paranormal stuff. Now, tonight we're going to be talking about the National Ghost Hunting Day, the world's largest ghost hunt. If you remember, those of you that watch Scarefest Radio, for this season, which we call season 12, but technically it just means Scarefest 12. I ain't been doing it 12 years. We had Maria on. I think she was the very first guest right out of the gate, and we were talking about the National Ghost Hunting Day, which launched at Scarefest, I want to say 3 years ago. The thing about it, we talked a lot about the past experiences. We did get into it, but she hadn't really had a chance. Maria had not had a chance to get into this past year's results. And everybody, this comes up, I believe, the first Saturday of October. Is that correct, Maria?
Yes, it is.
See, I remember all this stuff. It's just like right off the top of my head. Now, everybody, tonight we're live with Mary Marshall, the Paranormal MD, and Maria Schmidt, who is old friend of mine. What can I tell you? I think she's done all my shows. I think she's done everything except the one that died over on the TV channel.
We won't talk about that one.
No. But no. Yeah. So I don't get to be on Netflix. Yeah. Okay. I'm not. It's Mother's Day weekend. I'm trying to be very polite tonight, ladies. I have not dropped the F-bomb all night. So I am on my best behavior for tonight's show. Now, first of all, I'll start with you, Maria. For those viewers that have followed us here from Scarefest Radio and yet are not familiar with the world's largest ghost hunt, explain to them a little bit about this project and the involvement that has gone into this over the years.
Well, Wes, there's nobody better knowledgeable about it in its inception and conception and its delivery through the last 4 years than you. You were part of the team that got us started and executed back in July of 2016 when we first introduced the idea to the Scarefest team. Back then included Patty Starr. And it all started with a momentum of what can we do to acknowledge all the stakeholders of haunted properties, whether they're, paranormal investigators, haunted locations, the media, etc., to celebrate one day where it would be recognized and understood and maybe educated and do some good. So we my husband is Bob Schmidt, and we are the owners of Haunted Journeys, and we decided to use that as a platform to approach the National Calendar Registry to think about, and they get about 100 submissions a day. I mean, they get everything from, National Water Bottle Day, just very crazy ideas, and it's all pretty much inspired by marketing efforts.
I deserve a day. Go
So,
ahead.
yeah, like National West Forsyth Day. I mean, I'll try to get that one on. I'm sure I'll be successful. But so we did get accepted to on the national calendar for National Ghost Hunting Day. And so then we had the dilemma of what are we going to do with this fantastic day? Well, how are we going to celebrate? And therefore, the world's largest ghost hunt was started. And our whole idea really hasn't changed of what the goals are for the event. Primarily is for unification of, again, all the stakeholders. I'm not going to say of all paranormal investigators because we're all in it together. Whether you're in media, whether you are an author researcher, whether you're a haunted property, paranormal investigators, there's a lot of stakeholders that sometimes do not get acknowledged. And this holiday seems to kind of put these all folks together. Another purpose of it is historical preservation. And we have really united a frontier that, ghost hunting the paranormal tourism world, et cetera, actually does a lot for preservation efforts of historical properties. So this is a big message that we are executing. And another one was just to get down and dirty with paranormal research and see what happens when this incredible thing happens at the same time. Lots of ghost hunters, calling out to spirits all at the same time. What does that collective energy do? And we've been significant trying to prove some points there. And so that's another piece of the pie. So yes, National Ghost Hunting Day is celebrated on the last Saturday of each September. And we celebrated with the world's largest ghost hunt.
Now, I appreciate the recognition, and I have been a big supporter of the event. I'm not denying that because I think it's a fantastic idea. I wasn't sure you could pull it off logistically because it was such a big project. But now I'm going to confess, but I've never been a part of it because it's just a crazy time of year for me. Other than that first time standing in there watching, I believe it was
on the stage,
Brian Cano. Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. You needed me. You needed me. I was standing up there drinking. Horrible. I was standing up there drinking while you and Patty Starr talked. I was useless. I was eye candy. I was just eye candy. Now,
still are.
Now,
I'm making him blush, Mary.
Now, Mary Marshall, the paranormal MD. Now, I have two questions for you very quickly. First of all, the paranormal MD. The moniker, what does that actually mean to those of us in the paranormal field?
I was going to start answering it because the way you said it, I already knew something like this was coming. Every once in a while, it happens. And it's like, I literally used to have it on the website. It's like, no, I am not a medical doctor. There is no such thing as a paranormal doctor. It's not a degree on it to itself. And and it's one of those, when I started, where that name came from, it was a combination. This is probably going back to 2000, whatever. And I better get a website and, start doing stuff. And you came up and it was making my family and I making fun of me. MD were my first and last name initials at the time. And it was a catchy kind of thing, it's like, the paranormal Mary Dean, kind of thing. So it was making fun of myself and it was just kind of catchy, not anticipating in the least I would be doing what I'm doing and things would go where they went, but here we are. So, and that's how it started. And and honestly, when you start putting together, the parapsychology and the 20 years of research and the investigation in the field, along with all developing paranormal classes at the college and really getting into the mix of from the science to the culture to probably the darn closest thing, if there was such a thing as a paranormal doctor, I'd probably be it. So there you go. That's the story.
See, now all these things ran through my head. And one of them was, because I actually know psychics that specialize in healing the dearly departed, if you will. And so, you know, and it would have mattered if you had it plastered on your website. I do no research. I'm famous for that.
So we need to ask her if she's board certified. Are you a board certified paranormal MD?
Yeah, I'm a board certified paranormal MD.
I'm probably the only person here that's certified anything, and that's pesticide applicator. Now the real question, the real meat of the question now I've got the frivolity out of the way, is that now how did you get not roped into, how did you get involved in? How did you get involved in?
You know, Maria, it might have been the first one. No, I'm just kidding. Well, you know, we kind of knew each other for a couple of years. Oh, that is not fair. I just saw what you did. That's not fair. We probably knew each other for a couple of years, but then we really didn't talk, though. I mean, you know what I mean? It was like a little something on Facebook or this or that. Last year, honestly, I attempted on the second year to join, and that didn't work out for other reasons. Then last year, I think I contacted you. I'm not even sure anymore. And said, hey, you know, I've come out of the closet as a psychic medium, which I am, but I didn't, and I have to explain this now real quick. I didn't talk a lot about it publicly because I do teach a lot of the paranormal from a scientific perspective. And you're getting a lot of people that are on the fence. Those are the people I want to listen, to tune in. Unfortunately, if somebody hears, oh, and you're a psychic medium, that gets too woo-woo for them. So I just kind of kept it private for the most part, used it myself. Close people, you know, people close to me, they knew. But I kind of came out of the closet out and said, okay. And because I had some really very touching and meaningful experiences where I said, okay, you know what? I need to do this. This is a good thing. This really does help and heal people. So at that point, I contacted and said, do you have any teams? Because last year, they've kind of had a criteria of that you needed to have it was helpful to have a medium at the haunted location. So we found one that was I'm in Illinois, in Southern Illinois, that did not. Maria put us together and we just sort of took it from there. But that's basically how I kind of started. And then some other things transpired that, you know, we're still working on putting together. And that kind of brought us in closer. Then she hooked me without me seeing, blindsided me. And next thing you know, I'm helping produce this thing. So
we're going to take our commercial break, everybody. First one of the hour. We'll be right back with more Body and Spirit. Have you checked out the Mama Ruby's family of metaphysical and spiritual shows? The Mystical Fair in Lexington, Kentucky, Lexington's only monthly psychic and holistic healing arts fair. The Inner Light Festivals in Louisville in June and Lexington in November. And watch for Mama Ruby's Expo coming in 2020. Plus, Mama Ruby's Meta Lecture Series featuring interesting guests speaking on fascinating subjects. Start your journey now at mamarubies.com for more information. And welcome back, everybody, to Body and Spirit. Don't forget, Mama Ruby's is our presenting sponsor, and coming up, 24th and 25th, if I remember correctly. Yes, here it is. 25th and 26th. I got the dates wrong. Next Metaphysical Fair in Lexington, 25th and 26th. Go to mysticalfairlex.com, mysticalfairlex.com. And don't forget the big one, Inner Light Festival, June 1st through June 2nd, Louisville, Kentucky. We're in negotiations right now to get my fat ass up there to Louisville. So you might even get to meet me. Who knows? So I don't want to get off on too big of a tangent here, but I did find it your background story. I loved, Mary. I'm glad that you pursued and taught the scientific side of all this, because one of my biggest gripes, and I feel very hypocritical saying this, because I started on the scientific, quote unquote, side. The technical side is what I prefer to call it. And then as I was seeing things that I couldn't explain technically, then I started listening to mediums like you, that told me, pursue your own gifts. You're very gifted, blah, blah, blah. Now here I am. I'm a second-rate psychic that gives really bad tarot card readings. Now, the point behind this whole soliloquy is that I see so many people that are interested in the paranormal, then they find out, well, you've got two choices. You can do your homework, learn how to use a freaking camera correctly, and learn the electromagnetic spectrum, and learn how light reflects, UV light travels and infrared light travels, or you can go the psychic route, and trust your instincts and all this. And I feel like so many paranormal people in the paranormal field take that side as a shortcut versus what we did. Well, actually, you took the really long route to be a psychic medium, go that way, and then come back. So kudos on that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, to me, it's really important. I think I approach things when I've done investigations, in a really controlled manner, really much more like, I know a lot of times people will think, like, for public investigations, and they'll say, oh, this is evidence. To me, that that's not true evidence, because if you've got 40 people in and out and around your building, how do you know what you have? I will go to the extremes of putting up an alarm system so I know who's coming in and out of that building, when I'm doing an investigation. So there was just a lot of controls. And like I said, the science part comes from this has been years now, but getting into studying things I didn't think I would be studying: quantum physics, quantum entanglement, learning all these science things, neurology to some degree, to figure out how do our brains function? How are things happening? With that being said, there had always, like you were saying, there had always been this other side. I'd use it personally for a lot of years, privately. And then combining the two, even now, I still struggle, because I say, you should see the arguments that go on in my head. My worst thing is editing myself, like as you're talking to spirit or something in that, and then I start trying to analyze it. Stop it. You're not in that mode today, Mary, So yeah, I think you can use one as a crutch. I think that people really do need to understand the process of true investigation. There is a difference between a ghost hunt and investigating. And there's and you can certainly do it all. But if you're presenting something, I think you have to be pretty solid. What you present, it needs to stand up to scrutiny. And if it can't, it doesn't mean it's not real. It just means you need to find a better way to capture and present it. So, though there's that side of it. The medium side, it's a trip. It's a completely different set of skills and emotions that you're tapping into. And in a way, you are an aid, not just to the living, but to the dead. You can be a voice for them and understand the human side of who these spirits are. So I guess, yeah, putting the two together. But I did do it the long way.
Okay. Now, Maria, Before we get into the past results, I do want to ask, how's this year shaping up? This thing has grown every year as far as countries and teams and everything. How, just kind of a little photograph of time compared to where you were this time last year. How's this year shaping up?
It's shaping up pretty nicely. It's in a different level of dynamics. There's going to be some strong influencers that we didn't have last year. Obviously, having Mary on board is a big step for us because she's going to bring a level of professionalism, sophistication we never had. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, but, I know a few people that were involved before that might take issue with that.
Wow.
It used to be real grassroots, and what Maria felt like doing, that's what happened. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm still friends with those people. I'm going to tell them what you said. Okay, wait.
No, I'm real proud of what our teams have done together and collaboratively. Last year we had about 150 teams. I think we're going to stay at that same level because we have some new challenges this year that we're going to be announcing in a few weeks that is truly going to bring this event to a new level. And I think every year that we progress is going to become more and more significant in the chronicles of the paranormal and ghost hunting world. So to say that we're going to have more volume, I'm not sure if that's going to be the strategy that we're taking this year. We're comfortable with the volume. We may increase it maybe to 175, but what we want to do is have a deeper and higher penetration within the entire, not just the paranormal enthusiast market, but as well into the general market, so they can appreciate, again, the factors we spoke about before, the goals that we had before, and make a significant contribution towards, education and public awareness of what is the haunting. How is that a part of a historical building, and how we can use that in order to help preserve these buildings and their history. So that's pretty much where we're going to be this year. We're going to have a special twist with hashtag many cultures, one spirit. So we're going to try to showcase and write about some of the influencers in different cultures that we've almost inherited by doing this. In other words, for a big example, in Europe, it's extremely common to use a Ouija board. It's not detested or, it's not feared upon. It's part of their K2 equipment series package.
I did not know that.
They pack a Ouija board with their K2 meter and they're off and running. Whereas in America, we don't. That's not a typical practice.
That's voodoo.
Yeah, exactly. In Asia, they have a much darker focus, and they concentrate more on the bad spirits because that's all that exists. And what we found in the Pacific Rim is that they like to use more of the spiritual, metaphysical, entrenched, the seance, etc. It takes on a more Victorian look, and that's been our we want to try to amplify on that, because I think that's part of the education that we have to give folks out there, that we all have different styles and techniques, but we do have one spirit, and that's what we're going to try to influence. We're going to have a spotlight on maybe 5 or 6 celebrated haunted towns, and that's also our influence in trying to say, how can we sustain these small towns that use haunted places to bring in folks to discover those small towns? And there's a big effort and push going in that direction. And we're hoping that, that's going to be another, significant part of the education we do, the world's largest ghost hunt. So we're not going to try to do too much new every year. We're going to try just dribble in some changes, some different focuses. because we want to stay as pure to the original concept as possible. So, yeah.
Now,
I'm
go
going
ahead.
to pipe in just for a second, because I'm just going to say, here's the thing. Certain amount of things are in the works that Maria is alluding to, or I've alluded to. Unfortunately, we're just in a position that we can't speak about it quite yet. But the point being is that it's going to elevate it and really bring it to the masses, so that just like you said, the general public, the people who are either on the fence, I sort of heard about this stuff, can come in, because it's about, obviously, the ghost hunting. It is about the paranormal activity and understanding that, and the cultural perspective on that. But really, even still, how often I come across people in public situations when I'm speaking that don't realize how much the paranormal community does in the preservation of historical buildings. And I kind of try to put that out there and say, do you realize how many buildings would either have been torn down or fallen down by now if it weren't for the paranormal community coming in, sometimes buying them? Maybe they're holding these ghost hunts there. Sure, money is exchanging hands, but most of it's going for a really good cause and for a good reason.
You just pointed out something I was going to expand on your thought, in that it's not just the general public. There is a large segment of the ghost hunter population that don't realize when they spend $100 a night to go to a Waverly Hills, they think, oh, that's so expensive. They're just making a killing. First of all, when you're dealing with these historic locations, any repairs usually they have two choices on a historic location. You can repair it correctly, as in historically accurate, or you can tear the MF down. That that's what the law says. So anything that they even do to upgrade these buildings is just so expensive, and it costs so much to do it. And I have never regret, if you don't want to pay the $100, don't pay the $100. It's a free country. But I've seen a lot of that in the paranormal field, the griping about what it costs to do these hunts. And I'm like, have you looked at the building? Have you wrapped your head around what it takes just to upkeep a building that does nothing else?
Yeah, absolutely. And, and a lot of it too is sometimes just so structural, the repairs that needed to be done. Mm-hmm. They need new roof. They need maybe at even some of these places with the asbestos and things where they have to have actually someone, come in there and clean it out toxic wise, and before the public can go back in there. So there's a lot of work that these people do and are continuing to do in that preservation. What is really interesting to me is being in this field for so long. This is not something that used to be. It came about and grew organically just among people out there. They'd go into a location that maybe was abandoned. Nobody, owned it, or the city or somebody else they didn't even know. And, so a lot of times they'll buy it. A group of people will buy it, and then they start repairing it. Mm-hmm. But what I mean organically is from the idea of going in there and doing their research on the property, on the building, on the people. It became living history.
Yeah.
And, and from that living history, this movement among a lot of investigators and people in the field just started, and it just kept growing. Nobody said, hey, this is what you need to do. It just
plan. Yeah, they don't.
And so it really speaks to people having in this field a sense of compassion and empathy for life. And,
And there still are, Mary, that's so well spoken. And a lot of these ghost hunters, and we had testimony of 150 of these ghost hunter teams, they didn't get paid a penny for doing what they did last year. And it wasn't just a 2-hour segment of their life that they gave up. They gave up months of preparation to do this, and all for the sake of historic preservation. But this is not uncommon. This is what they're used to doing, and they love to do it, and they're ambassadors in this. And a lot of these buildings, we talk about roofs, et cetera, but one of the biggest challenges that we have with the world's largest ghost hunt is finding a historic property that has decent Wi-Fi. And I said, well, why don't you just get yourself decent Wi-Fi like the rest of them? They can't afford it. They cannot afford $100 a month to get a wire, to get good internet Wi-Fi in the building.
Maria, I've not stayed in that many hotels that had decent Wi-Fi, and I've not been in the first convention center.
Well, we know where you stay, Wes.
But the conventions, people ask me to do live remotes from all these conventions, and I'm going, no. Everybody, we're going to take our commercial break. Second one of the hour. We'll be right back with more Body and Spirit, talking about the National Ghost Hunting Day, world's largest ghost hunt. Do you feel lost in life? Do you seem to be stuck in emotions that are not yours? Is your home not the sanctuary it should be? Contact Spirit Mechanics, where they take a team approach to your metaphysical and spiritual problems. Spirit Mechanics specializes in aura cleansing, stone attunement, attachment removal, and house cleansings. Spirit Mechanics tailors their approach to your individual spiritual path and needs. Find them every month at Lexington, Kentucky's Mystical Fair, mysticalfairlex.com, or on Facebook by searching Spirit Mechanics, that's MECHANIX. Spirit Mechanics, for your spiritual health and well-being. Everyone is talking about CBD oil. Most of us know that CBD is a cannabis compound that has significant medical benefits, but does not make people high. Its benefits include pain relief, anti-seizure properties, anxiety relief, fights cancer, reduces the risk of diabetes, and it is even used as a sleep aid. Blue Leaf Naturals CBD and hemp products are full-spectrum hemp extract oils. They use only hemp grown in Kentucky, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses and helping you and your family stay healthy and well. Blue Leaf Naturals, created with care from seed to shelf. Visit their website at blueleafnaturals.com. Blue Leaf Naturals, a Kentucky proud company. And welcome back, everyone, to Scarefest Radio's Body and Spirit, presented to you by the Mama Ruby's family of metaphysical and holistic events. Now I want to get into a little bit about what's happened in the past, where we are now. What drew me to the project. Because like I said, it scared the piss out of me what you described that you wanted to do from a logistical standpoint. But I do like the idea. I was wondering about I guess the phrase would be the collective consciousness. You have a bunch of paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, however they want to term themselves, going out at the same time. And at least originally, we won't get into the future now. I've already been waved off the spoilers. But basically, everybody, what they did the first year, Brian Cano was there, and he had the teams basically ask. They had a list of EVP questions, and they just wanted to see if there was any similarity in the results and everything. So I guess the first question is, have you collected enough data to say that the ghost in Mongolia, okay, yeah, I pulled that one out of my rear end. The ghost in Asia recognize I shouldn't say the event, but you know what I'm saying. Recognize what's going on as a worldwide phenomenon at that moment.
I want to answer that question first of all. In year one, when you put us on Scarefest Radio, you said all hell will break loose, or
yeah, okay, okay,
no,
that.
I want to remind you that did not happen.
I just threw it out there just in case, just in case.
Because that scared the shit out of
I didn't mean to scare anybody.
I don't know if I want to do this, you know.
But a little bit of background on that is I do feel like all of us going out stomping around darkened buildings of a night have, I don't know if the correct term would be thin the veil, but it seems like, because I mean, the ghosts have always been there. First of all, ghosts were not invented with ghost hunters in paranormal state. They've been telling ghost stories. Cavemen told hairy ghost stories. And guess what? And I don't, and that's another thing on paranormal theory. I don't buy the whole, they drained my battery thing. Not for, if they may have drained your batteries, but they didn't use the energy because ghosts were around before the AA battery was ever invented. There, I've got my little soapbox thing out of the way. But I really did have I was wondering what our interaction, not even as a worldwide phenomenon, what effect they would have. And then flippantly, I did drop the little, well, what if you open a portal to hell and that's the end of the world?
You scared the petunias out of me because I didn't know it was going to happen either. And yeah, so.
Ghost apocalypse or something? I mean, what?
It was crazy. It was crazy. I don't even know if Brian was on the line with me back then. It's been so long ago, but there's two formats that I'm first of all, as you know, Wes, I don't know if you remember, but I'm a registered nurse. And as a clinician, I'm like Mary. That's why we get along. We're very analytical minded. We like to analyze data, et cetera. So that's what drove me a lot. It's not just hearing the stories, which are fascinating, or seeing the images captured or the videos captured. But what we did, we engaged with the Cyclical Research Center out of New Mexico. And if you remember that, and we did studies from year one on what we call random number generators. Which in theory says that the elevation of, dimensional energies does change when we all in the world kind of collectively focus on one thing. So they've studied, like, for instance, when the World Series happens or the Super Bowl happens or anything, the baby being born in England. So anything that everyone's kind of watching and experiencing at the same time, what changes are there? And then random number generators, which are the counting of the flip coins, virtual flip coins, these little gadgets all around the world. And there were significant changes done on year 1, 2, and 3. So that's documented. And then we use some kind of unscientific gathering of words, whether they come in through metaphysical, interpretations, or through EVPs, or through actual, right, exactly, like the ghost boxes, etc. We collect all of those, and with all the different questions, and we gather data. And what's significant is about 20% of those words are shared over various teams, not just one or two. But when you hear the word, like last year, we heard the word music in different levels with different teams around the world. The word, I believe it was heard in Kentucky, it was heard in Wisconsin, it was heard in Australia. So that was a very common word last year, the word music. And God bless you. And actually some sites actually heard music. They heard music. There was a team in Illinois that started, they started hearing music like spontaneously. Wisconsin heard it. So there were various, so that was seemed to be a theme. And when that happens, it makes you go, you know. So that's what we did, that kind of measurement. Was that all pull forth, you know, with this collective consciousness, you know, theory that we've been kind of relying on to, you know, ramp up the level of investigations? I don't know. We don't know. I know Brian Cannell, year 1 and 2, brought in the bridge. The word bridge came out during our last year's investigation, almost like the spirits wanted to see the bridge again. They wanted to cross and meet us there. So there was just a lot of, you know, commonalities that are more than just pure coincidences. But when you see this data coming in from all these teams around the world, it's crazy.
Last year, when you were actually talking about this during the reveal, I piped in. I'm going to do it again now, which is one of the things that people probably don't realize is that throughout history, since the beginning of written, you know, any kind of written history and before, there are only 2 things in common around the world: music and ghosts. Mm-hmm. Those are the only 2 commonalities throughout cultures, throughout history that we have in common. And I found it really interesting that those were 2 things that were, we had the ghosts, and then they were bringing the music into the picture on it. And then there were things, though, you had a hidden word last year.
Yeah.
And that even started beforehand, because I am a believer in a collective consciousness. You know, you do this too, Wes. You know how the energies work. There's things that we can't explain, you know, but yet we know they exist. Things happen. Mm-hmm. And I and other people were having experiences a week beforehand with the whole penny thing. Do you remember? Do you know what I'm talking about, Maria?
Mm-hmm. I do.
Yeah. And then that continued on during that course of that night with other people. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that they're connecting in through that in a common way. And I think it is that raise of vibration that really does make you know, and I get it. I'm like I said, there's that part of my brain that goes, yeah, I know, when I start saying raise the vibration, like I'm going all woo woo here, but you know,
I do it all the time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. You know, it is what it is. And that we as human beings truly are souls, a conscious energy with a body. When we tap into that, I think we have amazing capabilities. Because to be honest, I'm still not convinced that some of the things that we witness, I don't know how much we have a part in it versus them presenting to us how much is coming from here out in taking that in. But yeah, I think that collective consciousness does a tremendous amount by raising the frequency to all of these teams had it. Everybody had pretty good activity.
You know, we thought like we're so controlled with, you know, the watch, the time, and we had a specific time period that we're going to do a gunshot start at 10 p.m. Eastern time, no matter where you are in the world, and end at midnight. And did we lose Mary? And end at midnight, and then we'll see what happens, because that's where the punchline is. Mary is absolutely correct. The energy starts to creep in even 2 or 3 weeks prior to that. We had teams that teams with metaphysical workers that were actually seeing episodes that were going to happen with other teams in other locations. And it was after the fact that we started comparing stories, and they said they had such vivid dreams or visions, etc. And they were explaining and because I knew what was going on kind of around the world, just because they kept tell me stories. I said, oh my God, you're talking about this place here and that place there. So it was for us to be able to collectively put all this together, curate it, and see how one is influencing the other team, and without knowing, that comes afterwards, but it doesn't start at 10 p.m. Eastern time and ends at midnight. This year, in order to be a little bit more noble to our poor teams in other parts of the world, because you remember at 10 o'clock at night is what, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning in Europe.
And like next Tuesday in Australia. Yeah.
It's like 2 or 3 o'clock in Australia the next day. So what we're going to do is open up a window of 12 hours where you can invest, we're just going to keep all the videography going on for 12 hours from 12 noon Eastern time to 12 midnight. And so pardon me? Yes. So that way, we can have our teams in, there was a team at an abbey in England this year that caught a spectral, gorgeous apparition on film. And that happened at around 8 o'clock, 2 hours before we did our gig. So, they're not watching us with a shotgun start to say, okay, now we can start performing because it's officially, the world's largest ghost hunt. No, all the energy, the preparation, all the work we're doing, the excitement, the momentum is actually feeding the spirits, and they know this is going to happen, and they start interacting with us and getting ready for it just as much as we do. So it does become really,
now, we're gonna take our final commercial break. But before we go, I have to say, now that's the kind of dick I am, though. I want the ghost to perform. In other words, I would be the guy in there saying, chill it. Don't we don't need you on camera now. Wait, because that's how I like cooperative ghost. What can I tell you? And I've gotten spoilt here at the local location. Everybody, we'll be right back with more Body and Spirit, brought to you by Mama Ruby's.
Coyote Chris Sutton.
Shamanism.
Spiritual advisement.
Paranormal investigations.
Inspirational presentations.
Bringing light to the darkest places for over 20 years. Go to coyotechris.com to learn more. And don't forget our newest sponsor, Akashic Awareness, in a little Elizabethtown, Kentucky. They're a metaphysical healing and learning center unlike any other in Kentucky. Crystals, gems, and minerals greet you when you walk in, and that little shaggy dog called Raven. But really, the cool thing about them is they do a lot of learning events, and they bring in a lot of healers and different types of readers. And they have this event list. AkashicAwareness.com. Go there. Tomorrow they've got intuitive painting with Mandala Play Day. Rachel Centron will be there on the 16th doing massage, and trust me, she's good. She has paws, as I like to say. She's a small young lady that can get your muscles loosened up. And then Reiki with Nancy is coming up on the 16th. You'll find all that and more on their website, AkashicAwareness.com. If you go, tell the guy, be sure to tell them that you heard it on the radio about the guy being a hippie. That's the only way he'll know that that I referred you. Now, and he's not. He was in the military.
Wes, I'm interrupting you. You have a great radio voice, by the way. I
have a southern accent. Did you hear?
Don't start that. You're creating a monster.
I have a good tone, but did you hear the way I say diabetes in the commercial? I sound like Wilford Brimley. Anyway. One of the things I want to, so we're seeing some commonality, but not enough to draw conclusions. That's what I hate about the paranormal field. No one but me is willing to draw conclusions. See, I know everything, I just can't prove it to you. But now I am interested. Okay, you talked about how in Asia they deal with a much darker spirit. are those commonalities still present in the places that view the paranormal so much differently than, say, us in Australia? Have you noticed that?
You know, we would have to have a lot more. We just have 3 teams in Asia. Actually, 4 if you count the Philippines.
We just have 3 teams. That's a lot of teams. I'm not, but I understand. Oh, you don't have the data sampling to compare it.
Yeah, I mean, we can do South versus the North, or East versus the West in the USA, because we have a lot more numbers there. But to compare, the influence of the darkness in Asia with their twisted look in Australia, is we don't have enough there. One day perhaps we will. We don't know, but that's we want to explore the cultural impact this year a little bit stronger, and that's what is going to be so tremendous in 2019. And we're going to have the right platform, if all goes well with our plans, to showcase these international teams, because quite frankly, the USA has been really the core of the world's largest ghost hunt, and I'm not satisfied with that. I think we need to bring in the rest of the world in abundance. Last year we did have South Africa, which we were very blessed in having, and by the way, if you go to our website, I'm going to do a little plug here, which is largestghosthunt.com. You'll see some of those videos, and you can bounce around from the different regions that we had. We have them all kind of curated and organized by the regions in the world. So you can see the investigation in South Africa. You can see the investigation in Malaysia, etc. So, yeah.
I think you just gave the wrong address. You said world's largest ghost hunt. There is no.
That was a slip. That was a good slip. Yeah. Yeah. It's largest. Thank you. See, that's why a good producer. She's into details. I'm into nothing.
Point out.
So largestghosthunt.com. And we have a brand new updated website. It's going to be a little bit more of a double authenticity type of application process. First, they have to apply. Once we check out their credentials, make sure they're cool, then we ask them to register. We did start a historic preservatory organization that is going to be sort of promoting this, etc. So there is a small fee involved this year. We have to, in order to keep the organization running and doing well. Unfortunately, we're limited to, what we can do with the restraints of monies, etc. But I think this year we're going to have different players involved that we're going to do well. We're going to do very well. I'm so excited, Wes, and I'm so excited that hell did not break open 2016.
The day's young. The day's young.
That we're still alive.
You laugh, but Bishop James Long, who absolutely, that's one thing I'll say about the guy. I think he thinks I'm batshit crazy. Oh, no, that wasn't the F-bomb. I didn't drop the F-bomb. But at the same time, the one thing I love about the guy is I feel like no matter what happens, he has my best interest at heart. And we were talking about my spiritual gifts and the spiritual warrior thing, and how negativity just does not come around me, and helping and all this stuff. And the guy said, and I said, I'll go in Bobby Mackey's, and and the place goes silent. And he goes, they're just luring you in.
I think, quite frankly, they're scared of you, Wes. So they just get the hell out of Dodge when you show up.
It has happened once. It actually did happen once. But we're at the top of the hour. We're at the end of the show. Every year I try to spotlight this event once or twice. This year I've done it twice, so I'm like really in Maria's good graces. But it is. I feel that it is there is so much dry fodder in the paranormal field. There is just, in other words, there's so many people that I feel there's nothing wrong with being there for the experience, but so many people that are there for the experience also try to play investigator and present evidence and everything. I guess what I'm saying is I like seeing a direction, and this is a direction to unify a very diverse field. If you can put 3 ghost hunters who are not on the same team in the same room and not have a fist fight come out of it, you're doing damn good. So,
or 3 metaphysical workers, or you have to remember.
Don't get me started on psychic mediums. No,
you put 3 in the same room is like.
I agree that the focus, to me, the byproduct of the world's largest ghost hunt is the evidence. It's not the focus. And I like that because it goes back to, hey, look at this. This community, just like any other field, you have some bickering, you have some discourse, but for this night, everybody works together. And I think it shows us that there are better sides of us that we should all strive for. And I think the world's largest ghost hunt does that. Evidence is great. I'm all over wanting it too, but I don't know that is the point of this. You want good evidence, everybody can go off and do their own little thing. This is about unity. It is about historical preservation. It is about life and death, the community.
That something very quickly before we get shut the cameras off. You mentioned it earlier, talking about, you implied that some of the ghosts are interested in historic preservation. I don't know if it was an EVP. I don't even know what made me think that, but the way you said something. Are there actually ghosts out there saying, paint this damn place?
No, but I'm going to start asking that now just to see if I can get an answer. But there are ghosts out there from last year's ghost hunt that we did for the world's largest. The location I was at, there was a ghost that came out, made herself very known. Her name was Rose, and she actually approached me as a medium. When we got there, we started working with these people. She is continually, through every ITC device you can think of, communicating with them. Why? That was her town. It was a historical museum that this was at, that was almost falling down. She loves the town. She loves the people. She loves these 2 investigators, and she follows them to different locations in the town, gives them information. So in a way, she didn't say paint the place, but she's saying, hey, let's pay attention to the place.
What they're more concerned with, Wes, and I think this is the core of why we do what we do. They want to tell their story. And then remember the Haunted Journeys motto is a haunting is history wanting to be heard. So when they tell their story, they're telling history. And the only way they're going to be able to tell that history over and over again if people come to the structure that held that story, that embraced that story. So yeah, they're wanting to preserve history. They're wanting to preserve that building that holds that history. So yeah.
But we'll have to find out if they want red paint or blue paint. That we don't know.
That's right.
Spruce the damn place up, they'll say. Everybody, this has been Body and Spirit, presented to you by Mama Ruby's twice a month. Check us out in a couple of weeks. Don't even know who the guest is. I have no notes here. I don't know. But I do want to thank Maria Schmidt and Murray Marshall for putting up with me tonight and my mindless banter. And I hope everybody enjoyed it. And check it out. Now, I always go to nationalghosthuntingday.com. What's the other web address?
That's the same website. Both of them point to that website. We're currently recruiting and building our teams. I would not suggest waiting too much longer. This year is going to be probably filled up real soon. So, yeah. So we want to, especially, do does this broadcast over to outside of this country, or I like
Well,
to get those
it's the
international
internet, I guess,
cues.
everywhere but China. They probably.
We're not in China, not yet.
Well,
because of
they
that.
probably blocked my fat ass. I don't know.
The tariff that we just got. They won't allow us there.
But I mean, there once again,
Yes.
it's on YouTube. If yeah, I'm sure there's some Middle Eastern countries without that might not like our American content, and I'm fairly sure there's got to be some right wing Christians that will not watch my show. But other than that, yeah, we're pretty. I'm big in Australia. I can help you in Australia. I'm big in Australia and New Zealand. I know that from watching the little graphs on the website. Everybody, this has been Body and Spirit. Once again, thanks to my guest. We'll see you in a couple weeks.